What is going on? What is going on, football fans? My name is Juan Pablo Gordon Camargo, and this is the Air It Out podcast presented by Inside the Hashes. And I'm joined on a video call with 2/3 of our expert crew. I got Avery Collins and Mr. Darren Big Trust Braxton on the call. What's up, guys?
Big Trust, whoa, you already know what it is, baby.
What's going on, y'all? I'm sorry, Darren, is that Drake in your background? Like old Drake, no beard Drake?
No beard Drake. That's how you know I've been a
fan. Okay.
That actually is kind of funny. So, guys, I saw this video earlier this week about how Drake and Kendrick Lamar are like the Michael Jackson and Prince equivalents of today's modern music. And I wanted to ask you guys really quick, is that true? Because, for me, I love Michael Jackson, and they compared Michael Jackson to Drake in the sense that he makes these poppy, really good, multi-selling albums with no substance, whereas Prince was this very deep musical performer that played multiple instruments but didn't get as much mainstream success as Michael, similar to Kendrick Lamar. I don't know. Are those fair comparisons?
Absolutely not. Not even close. First of all, So the statement that Prince didn't get the accolades that he deserved, that's true, right? Prince was a phenomenal artist. I think he's more appreciated after death. So unfortunately, but yeah, no, there's first of all, Michael's stuff had substance.
Out of control, apparently.
Michael's stuff definitely was relevant. It may not have been as deep as a James Brown or a Prince or anything like that, but it was lyrical content was very, very, it was in depth. And Kendrick is not somebody who's underappreciated. Everybody knows about Kendrick. Everybody knows Kendrick would wash Drake lyrically without question. Everybody knows that, there's not too much that Kendrick can't do. But as far as those comparisons, I just don't like it. I think if you're going to liken somebody to a Michael and a Prince, I guess you could say Beyonce's more Michael, and then Justin Timberlake's more Prince.
That's fair. Darren, what do you think? Was my comparison unfair? Because I will say this for the record, that was not my comparison by choice. Hip Hop Madness, a YouTube channel, actually made the comparison. I'm just reading off what it says. And for anyone wondering, yes, that Facebook user is our other contributor, Mr. Darius Reddick, who couldn't join us today. And we miss you here, Darius, but you're not here to answer. So
Beyonce and JT.
I mean, all right. Now, if we're talking hip hop, then I guess you got to go Drake and Jay-Z, right? Like Jay-Z would be the Michael Jackson, and then Drake would probably Drake would be the Michael Jackson, and Jay-Z would probably be the Prince because he's a little more underappreciated. I don't think people really understand some of the stuff that Jay-Z actually.
I don't know. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm a Drake fan, but to name Drake in the same sentence as Michael Jackson,
again, if we're talking if we're making a comparison for hip hop versus pop artists, it makes sense. We're not talking about in the general spectrum of music. Absolutely not. Nobody touches Michael.
Oh, all right.
You know what I'm saying? But
no, I get what you're saying now. It's just that's just a hard thing to try to compare.
I mean, we're good.
It's a hard thing to try to compare, no matter how
the greatest artist all the time is not even Michael Jackson. The greatest artist all time is Stevie Wonder. So that's,
Well, guys, as much as I'd love to turn this into the hip hop debate, and our own producer, Mr. Jerome Jones, this whole conversation, blasphemy, that may be Mr. Jerome Jones, but at the same time, it is open to opinion, and everyone has their opinion on the arts, on sports, on culture, whatever it may be. That's the point. That's the point of having a great and open communication system. And, as much as I would love to make this a hip-hop podcast, which is a dream if I can make it, I can't. It won't be this one today. Maybe in the future, but not this one today. But in the meantime, we're going to run in and start in with the rundown for today's podcast. And first, we're going to be starting off with the gift that just keeps on giving the Washington football team. According to ESPN's John Kine, quote, an attorney for 20 former Washington football team employees said her clients want the organization to have accountability and change, and said that won't happen until owner Dan Snyder has been removed. This is in connection to the two stories that the Washington Post has published in recent weeks in which 40 ex-employees described the pervasive atmosphere of sexual harassment. As of right now, the National Football League is conducting their own investigation into the matter. Snyder vehemently denies any type of wrongdoing during his 20 years as owner of the organization. Moving into some important news with regards to starting lineups. Starting quarterbacks are already being named across the league. In Miami, Ryan Fitzpatrick was named the starter for the Dolphins for the game against the Patriots in Week 1, while also fielding trade offers for third-year quarterback Josh Rosen. In Los Angeles, the Chargers named Tyrod Taylor the starter over rookie quarterback Justin Herbert, who was selected 6th overall in this year's draft. In Washington, Dwayne Haskins got the starting nod over Alex Smith and Kyle Allen. Washington is set to play the Eagles in Week 1. And just today, Cam Newton was named the Patriots starter going into Week 1 against the Dolphins. He was also named an offensive captain alongside center David Andrews and running back James White. As of right now, the only QB situation that has not been determined is in Chicago between Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. In signing news, two major names really pop out. Free agent defensive back Logan Ryan signs a 1-year deal with the New York Giants, making his return to the Garden State, where he played for Rutgers University in 3 years, from 2006 to 2009. Ryan spent most of his free agency looking for a payday after having his most productive season in Tennessee, but couldn't find anything suitable. As for the other bit of news, contract talks between the Eagles and tight end Zach Ertz have broken down. According to MSN, the offer, which was reportedly backloaded, offered less money over the next 4 years than the deal that Cleveland Browns gave tight end Austin Hooper this offseason, which was a 4-year, $44 million contract, with $23 million of it guaranteed. In 2019, Ertz was the leading receiving weapon for the Eagles, catching 88 passes for 916 yards and 6 touchdowns. This weekend marks the roster cutdown days, where all 32 teams must thin their rosters down from 80 to 53 players. First major name cut came today as the Cowboys cut safety Clinton Dix, who signed with the team on a 1-year deal. Dix was last with the Washington football team. Before that, he was with the Bears and the Packers. Another cut news earlier this week: wide receiver Mohamed Sanu was released by the Patriots. Sanu came way of Atlanta last year in a trade with the Falcons, but was injured just as he got to Foxborough, having one of the most underwhelming seasons of his career. And in what might be the most blatant, obvious tank job of 2020, the Jaguars have traded away another starter. Per NFL's Ian Rappaport, safety Ronnie Harrison was traded to the Browns for a 2021 fifth-round pick. Browns needed a safety following the season-ending injury of promising rookie Grant Delbert. Harrison, a former Alabama third-rounder, accumulated 71 tackles, 2 sacks, and 9 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions in 14 games in 2019. And that concludes today's rundown. Now, Avery, I want to start with you. You are our resident Falcons fan. You saw Mohamed Sanu, who was the sidekick, the Robin to Julio Jones's Batman. Where do you think Sanu ends up?
First of all, don't ever liken Julio Jones to Batman again. He is better than that. So let's just get that out the way. If you're going to go superhero, make sure it's better. It's like a Superman or Iron Man 4, somebody. You know what I'm saying? Just
another dynamic duo, and I'll make that comparison.
But no. Listen, man, I was upset that he got cut. I think Mohamed Sanu is, again, arguably one of the top tier second string receivers in the league. Still, you look at his catch radius, and 2, look at the drop passes over the course of his career. Not too many. The guy is a sure-handed catcher. He's a big body. He's an excellent blocker. I think that he is his most valuable asset, though, is his presence in the locker room. I mean, the guy knows how to rally a locker room. Everybody says that he's a great teammate. He breaks down the huddles. He does all the little things that you want him to do. I would love to have him back in Atlanta. Bring him home. I would love to have him back. I think it's a situation where, he might not get signed until midseason if there's an injury or something like that to a team. But I just think that Atlanta would be a great fit because he already knows the system. Everybody in Atlanta loves him. And there's still there's still questions about Laquan Treadwell. So come home, Sanu, man. We need that bean talk back in Atlanta.
Darren, listing out all the starting QBs that went down so far, we already know that your team has the MVP in QBs in NFL players in Lamar Jackson. So your judgment on which starting QB here do you think is going to keep their job until the end of the season?
So I got two so far that's going to keep their job. Cam Newton, Tyrod Taylor. The fact that Cam was able to digest the offense and become named starter with at least a week ahead of schedule, it shows the confidence that Bill Belichick has in him. And the fact that he's team captain shows basically the effort and the admiration that the players also feel for him. So I definitely like Cam staying there over Jarrett Stidham. I wasn't personally a fan of Stidham, but he won the job fair and square. Cam. Now Tyrod Taylor, on the other hand, Justin Herbert, I feel like just needs time to sit and actually watch. Coming from the Pac-12, you have to understand the offenses are a little bit more simple, but they still get the job done. But when it comes to the offense of the NFL's caliber, it's just way too complex for him to try to dive in and just automatically understand. Not to say he can't do it, but he's already said in the Hard Knocks, it's starting to catch up to him how complex these offenses are and how these defenses run. So it's going to take him a little bit of time. So I see Tyrod Taylor being the starter for this year and maybe even starting a little bit next year, just depending on how Herbert is looking. But
Why the exaggeration here? You're not going to defend yourself. So we'll hold off that discussion for when you're back on the show. But, I want to ask before we move on, there's only one more QB battle left to figure out. It's up in Chicago. It's between Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. Bears didn't pick up Trubisky's option, and Foles still has a massive contract to be paid out for after he signed with Jacksonville. So let me ask you guys real quick, and Avery, I want to start off with you there. Who deserves to be the starting QB in Chicago?
I think one of the things that we have to point out is something that's very telling. The fact that Nick Foles hasn't supplanted himself as a starter is telling to me. It tells me a couple things. One, either he's not as good as the Bears thought he was, or two, he was good, but he actually did what they wanted him to do, and that's push Mitchell Trubisky to a higher level, to the point where they're like, man, we don't know who we're going to start at this point, because it's tough. You got Mitch, who knows the system and he has the potential, as opposed to Nick Foles, who's proven. So it's like, where do you go? And so I think that's really telling, the fact that neither guy has really, supplanted themselves as the starter at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see. I would say right now, if I had to choose a starter, I would say go with Mitchell Trubisky. I think the reasons being are, one, he's younger, and the potential that he unlocked. If he is able to unlock it, you have a solid team around him. We're 2 years removed from them going 12 and 4. So it's not a long shot. Number two, I think you start Mitchell because Nick Foles is an excellent closer. He's a guy who knows how to come in off the bench and win you football games. So, and he doesn't mess up a locker room if he's on the bench, right? He's not going to be sulking and yada yada. He's going to play his part, and then if he gets the chance to start, he's going to play quality football. So I think the answer right now is probably Mitch.
All right, Darren, real quick, if Nick Foles has only succeeded in Philly as of record right now. Anywhere else he's been has been a complete flop. Kansas City, Los Angeles. Do you really think that he can make a difference in Chicago?
I'm not a Mitchell Trubisky fan, so I would like to say yes. But as Avery already stated, it's a telltale sign that he has not supplanted himself already and become the starter. The fact that they went out and traded for him, they felt like he could be that guy, but from what they've seen so far, it's not enough for them to say, you know what, we're going to trust Foles over Trubisky. And you see what Trubisky has done. He's been hot and cold, basically, for most of his career. And they're preferring that over Nick Foles. I'm not seeing it too well for him this time.
Well, whoever being the starter in Chicago will ultimately have a good defense on his side, but a lack of playmakers on the offensive side. And oftentimes when good teams have good sides of the ball, one like the defense can be like I'm sorry, I'm studying for a minute. What I'm trying to say is often in Chicago they have a killer defense but a lackluster offense. Similar to how the Vikings have something operated, they have a defense on the rise, but an offense that still looks like it's missing a few things outside of Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook. But it leads me to talking about our first topic of the day, which is Yannick Ngakoue being traded to the Minnesota Vikings from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, according to NFL.com, Ngakoue was traded to Minnesota for a 2021 second-round pick and a conditional fifth-round pick. He took a $6 million pay cut just to get out of Jacksonville. So instead of being paid $17 million on a franchise tag, it's $13 to $12 million. And he's only 25 years old and playing alongside another 25-year-old young pass rusher in Danielle Hunter. So, Darren, I want to start off with you. Who won this trade between the Jaguars and Minnesota Vikings?
The Vikings, they re-sign him. It is that simple. The Vikings, if they re-sign Yannick Ngakoue, they'll have two 26-year-olds for the next at least 3 years together. And those guys are just monsters at their position. When you think about Danielle Hunter, he already has 50 sacks in his young career. And he's only been in the league 4 years so far. This is going into his fifth year now. He already is re-signed with them as well. Then you have Yannick Ngakoue, who in his 4 years, 37 sacks, and actually had 14 forced fumbles, which led the league in that time frame at defensive line position. So you got to understand, these guys get to the ball and they turn the ball over. So having those two on the edge, that's going to be a nightmare. And it's smart to have because you got to think about who they go up against in this division. The Aaron Rodgers of the world and Matthew Stafford. I won't say Mitchell Trubisky, but he's not Ryan Leaf. It's just he's not. He can be better. He showed he can be better, and he's not proving it. So until he proves it, we cannot say he's been better. That's how I'll put it. But
and also the fact that Ryan Leaf was, just a jerk in the locker room. so Mitch Trubisky has that going for him. Avery, with the addition of Yannick Ngakoue, with trading Yannick Ngakoue and trading Ronnie Harrison, the Jaguars look like they're in a tank mode. Is this a tank for Trevor's situation, or do they actually have faith in their quarterback? I'm blanking on the name right now.
Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. Like, is this an obvious tank by the Jaguars, or are they just trying to stockpile to build around their quarterback?
I don't think that it's a tank. I do believe that it's just a rebuild, right? I don't think this is a tank. A tank is completely different, where it's just like you go into the season with these guys, Leonard Fournette, Yannick, and all of those different things, and you just throw games, right? That's more of a tank than anything. I think they're just committed and sold out to the rebuild. With that being said, just to answer the first question, I don't think there's a loser in this situation. I think there's I think both sides win. I think that the Vikings win to the points that Darren pointed out. You get you get a young pass rusher, so now you have two young pass rushers for the foreseeable future, as long as you can re-sign them, and different things like that. So I mean, and you didn't give up a whole bunch to get them. I think the Jaguars made out because of the fact that they get rid of a guy who doesn't want to be there and is potentially going to be a cancer. Two, you get back some draft picks in return. And that's what you're going to want if you're going to want to rebuild. You want draft picks and different things like that. So I think that both sides won, but I just feel like I don't think it's a tank. I do think that they are in a rebuild mode, and I do think they are targeting Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think they're going to tank. I think Doug Marrone is a coach who isn't about that. He reminds me of the GM currently for the Jaguars and Tom Coughlin. He's one of those guys who's like, I'm a tough-nosed guy. I'm going to go out and try to win every game no matter who's on my roster. Now, if we don't, we don't. But at the end of the day, we're going to put forth the best effort. I think the same thing about Gardner Minshew. He's the type of guy who's like, you can tell me to tank or you can tell me to throw it again. I'm not going to do it because he's a competitor. So I think they're going to try to compete and do the things that they need to do. But I do think that with the way the roster is built right now, they're not going to win a lot of games. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence.
It's really telling when a player takes a $6 million pay cut to leave a team and get traded out of it just to get out. So really telling of how bad the culture might be down in that Jacksonville locker room. So much so that they had to cut one of their players, start running back on Leonard Fournette, which moves us into our second topic of our podcast today, which is the value of running backs in 2020. Now, there was a lot of running back news being broken over this last week. The first being Leonard Fournette getting released by the Jacksonville Jaguars, clearing waivers, and then going on to sign a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Fournette doesn't have to leave his home state of Florida. He gets to stay. But he's not the only running back that made the headlines this week. Joe Mixon, the Bengals running back, signed a 4-year, $48 million contract. No word on the guarantees yet. Both Fournette and Mixon were drafted in the same class, with Fournette putting up only about 2,631 rushing yards, while Mixon has quietly put up 2,931. And in that same draft class, New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara made the news, having missed 3 straight days of practice, wanting a new contract with New Orleans, only for the Saints to say that they're willing to trade him for a first-round pick, which quietly put Alvin Kamara's holdouts to bed. So, guys, 3 pretty good running backs in the market, each one getting a different style of treatment from the NFL. So it kind of begs the question, in a passing league, what is the value of an NFL running back? And I want to start off with Leonard Fournette's contract. And Avery, I want to start off with you there.
Well, I think a couple of things. Leonard Fournette is a guy who he had some injuries obviously early part of his career and everything like that, so he missed some games. But he's a workhorse back, right? Handling the ball 25, 30 times a game. That's what he's best at. Not to say that he can't catch off the backfield or he's not willing to, but that's not his strong suit. He's a downhill runner, get the ball in his hands, and kind of get out of his way. He's got decent feet for his size. A lot of people don't want to tackle him, and different things like that. So, I think another thing that's telling is the fact that he wanted to stay in Florida. He signed with the Bucs for less money than he probably could have gotten. I think Leonard Fournette could have gotten a better deal. Potentially somewhere else, but it's interesting to see, man. It's interesting to see how the running back position is being marketed right now. You gotta be able to catch the ball. You gotta be able to make people miss. You gotta be able to pick the blocks. You gotta be able to do all these things, and you've always had to be able to do all these things, but it's just becoming more prevalent with the emergence of guys like Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, Christian McCaffrey doing it so consistently. Prior to that, it was LaDainian Tomlin and Marshall Faulk. Outside of guys,
it's interesting that you say that Fournette could have got better options. According to Jaguars head coach Doug Marrone, they couldn't get a 5th, they couldn't get a 6th, they couldn't get a 7th for Fournette to get out of there. So
now that could be two things. That could be a coach who maybe has a gripe against the guy and is trying to lower his value.
But then you say that Marrone isn't that guy, though, to throw slights and to throw shade like that?
I never said that. I said that he's the type of guy that doesn't want to lose football games. That's what I said. I didn't say that he wasn't the type of guy that wouldn't do something like that. I think it could be a situation where, let's say, Leonard Fournette wasn't in line with what Doug Marrone wants to do moving forward. If that's the case, of course I'm going to try to lower his value. So, whatever. If there's a rift, I'm not saying that there is, but if there's a rift in that relationship, we've seen coaches do it before. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But I just think that with a lot of these things, with the running back position, I think that they're undervalued because of how much they get hit. I think at the same time, they kind of sometimes can look at themselves a little too highly as well. For example, Alvin Kamara. You didn't produce the way that you did when Mark Ingram was there last year. You didn't, and you were hurt. So to think that you're going to get Christian McCaffrey money after seeing what Christian McCaffrey did and you didn't come close to that, it's like, come on, Christian deserves that money. You deserve a good amount, but not Christian McCaffrey money.
Darren, with that being said, Alvin Kamara trying to hold out to get that new contract. Then the Saints kind of railroading him with saying that they were willing to trade him. Just shows this kind of speaks to how they value how far they're willing to go to try to keep Kamara in line. So what do you expect if a contract's being made? Kamara's agent says, but what do you expect the value to be for Alvin Kamara?
So that was a new stunt I haven't seen in a while. When it comes to guy holding out and then just blatantly the team says, you know what, we'll put him on the trade market. We'll shop him around. Teams have not done that so blatantly. And that's the main thing about it. Teams have done it behind the scenes and shopped them around during negotiations sometimes, but never so. Yeah, we're doing it and having no kind of care with it. So I see his contract coming between the 8 and 12 million range. I think he was really more looking towards trying to get a little bit closer to Christian McCaffrey money.
Wow.
But
that's wow.
That's what you have to kind of think when they were talking and everything was going good until he starts to hold out. They said that it was something about him having back treatments, which couldn't be the truth, but at the same time, it may still be a holdout, and they're trying to nip that in the bud and say, hey, that's just kind of how that goes.
And, with Kamara, he's one of those multifaceted backs where you can literally put him anywhere, similar to a Christian McCaffrey, or as Avery said, a Le'Veon Bell, shout out. But with Kamara, having injured his knee last year and kind of watching what happened to Todd Gurley after he had injured his knee over the past 2 years with the Rams, is it worth it to invest in a running back that could be a little spotty with regards to injury history?
I think, first of all, Darren said 8 to 12 million. He's worth more than 8 to 12 million. That's sick. I think he makes 12 million now. He wants more. So that's sick. That's a low number for Alvin. Again, let's not forget Alvin Kamara is productive. He is a good back. He can catch the ball at the backfield. Got some of the best.
That's I think going to get due to the fact he was trying to get closer to Christian McCaffrey.
Right, but again, if he's already making this now, what makes you think he's going to get anything less than the 12 that he's already getting? If that is the case, I don't think he's getting less than that. I don't think he's going to settle for less than that. To be honest, if anything, he'll be like, I'll just come back into camp and start playing if that's the case, because, why would you do that? But, yeah, I listen, man, I think that running backs need to understand their value, right? I think Le'Veon Bell did a phenomenal job in doing that. A lot of people say, oh, he took less money and yeah. But what he did was he said, you guys aren't willing to commit to me, and I know my value. I know my worth. That's what he was looking for. He was looking for security. And I think that's what a lot of these running backs are looking for. They're looking for security. They get banged up. They're asked to be receivers. They're asked to be fullbacks. They're asked to be running backs. They're asked to block for the quarterback, to do a lot of different things for these running backs. And it's like for these teams. And it's like, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask for a guy where you're saying your shelf life is only 7 years for a running back, but you want to give me the ball 200, 250, 300 times a game and expect me to block and expect me to catch and do all these different things. So it's like, It's a lot, and I misspoke. Alvin Kamara's contract isn't that high, but again, I still don't see him settling for anything less than honestly like 10 million.
Kamara's total rookie contract right now, 4 years, 3.8 million on the in the total cap, and he was a third rounder coming out of the 2017 NFL draft. And when you really think about it, a lot of the top running backs in this league came out of that draft. Christian McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara even. And, Fournette was the first of them all to go fourth overall to the Jaguars, yet he's the one that's making the least amount of money, technically in the new sign deal situation. But, another running back that came out of there who actually benefited from making money was Joe Mixon. He was a second rounder to the Bengals, and Mixon signed a 4-year. Let me look it up here real quick. A 4-year, $48 million contract. Again, no word on the guarantees yet, but we're expecting it to be in the $23, $25 million range. He had close to nearly 3,000 yards in his first 3 years with the Bengals, 17 rushing touchdowns, and on 600 and on almost 700 carries. And he's joining a weapon stockpile that features Joe Burrow, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. So, what does that speak to Mixon's value, that he can both pass and run as a power back, but catch like a scat back? So, Darren, you first. Did the Bengals overpay for Mixon services, or does this demand more money, a la Christian McCaffrey?
I don't think it's an overpay, honestly. You got to think about what he's been producing more so recent, especially the last 2 years, showing his versatility, showing he can stay a little more healthy, and producing the way he has. And then you have to think about what he can do for the future. The guy is still pretty young. He's I believe he's only 25, 26 years old. So he still has good years ahead of him, and the 4 years will last right up until about he's 30. So you got to understand that type of production with the weapons that they've been adding around, and they have a young quarterback. They want to have that core together to build and grow. And then being able to run the ball the way Joe Mixon does, it helps out with the new quarterback and Joe Burrow. So I don't think it's an overpay. And I do like what I see. That's definitely one of the guys I worry about when Baltimore plays.
Avery, we've been talking about, the value of a running back, how they should be established and everything. And the spectrum kind of speaks for itself, where it's Leonard Fournette as low as $2 million on 1 year, Alvin Kamara in the middle negotiating his contract, and Joe Mixon cashing out with $48 million on the table. So, as on a standard running back contract, what should be the standard?
That's a tough question, man. That's a really, really, really tough question. I think it depends on it depends on the individual and the team, right? I think it depends on what you do for your team and different things like that. So, like, for example, a guy like Joe Mixon, let's not forget that Joe Mixon was one of the highest running backs, listed to be draftable when he was coming out. It was just, the issue with the off-field problems that he had, which lowered his draft stock. Prior to that, he's looked at as maybe the second, third guy to be like, yeah, we're probably, if not the first guy, if not the first running back to come off the board in that draft. So it's a situation where people, I think, forget that he was that guy coming out of college. So it's not surprising to see him performing well in the NFL. And I think for a guy like him, with a team like the Bengals, whose offensive line is shaky, who doesn't have too many weapons, but still produces, gets over 1,000 yards, catches the ball out the backfield, yeah, he's worth that type of money. You pay that guy, right? But then you look at a guy like, again, Alvin Kamara, where it's your first 2 years in the league, you play behind Mark Ingram. The third year you play, you couldn't stay healthy, and you didn't produce a high amount of numbers. You're not the main threat on the offense. They still have Michael Thomas, I believe Latavius Murray, Drew Brees. These are all factors. You're not the main weapon on offense as well, so you're not going to get the type of money that a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who is that guy on that team, right? Outside of DJ Moore, who had a decent year, you can't name another receiver. Teddy Bridgewater isn't a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. it's the Christian McCaffrey show. Pay that man. So I think it just depends on the team and the individual. I think Alvin Kamara is a phenomenal back. Like I said, I think he's a top 10 back in his league with top 5 potential. But I just think for right now, I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to Christian McCaffrey money, and I don't think it's deserved on that team. Now, if he goes to a team where he's the guy and he's doing all of those things that these other two guys are doing, okay, you can make a case.
It's funny that you talk about you talk about that, especially because your team is the recipient of one of those running backs that was a debate of a high value or no value for paid immediately. Of course, I'm talking about Todd Gurley when he signed that massive contract with the Rams, but was voided 2 years later when his knee really caught up to him. So it's kind of like two ends of like the good side and the bad side of paying running backs. You can either have a Christian McCaffrey situation where he balls out in every part of the game, or a Todd Gurley situation, which can give you short-term success, but in the long term might not be able to give you those numbers that you need. So with regards to paying running backs, the debate will rage on forever. But right now, the fact that we get to see that we get to see Joe Mixon get paid, that we get to see Leonard Fournette get another chance instead of getting shattered by the league, is pretty impressive. And the fact that Kamara is negotiating right now with a team that's already $80 million over the cap is just surprising. Darren, what do you want to add?
Just want to throw in there again, now you got to understand as well, for Leonard Fournette, he can actually double dip with the way his contract is set up. There's no offsetting language. So if he wins his agreement from the Jaguars, he gets an additional $4 million that he was owed from them. So that also could have went into the consideration of how low the contract is.
And that's the same thing with the Todd Gurley situation. He was already owed $4. I think he's getting like $11 million from the Rams, and the Falcons signed him for $6. It's like, okay, cool. We'll take that. It's a discount for a guy who has top 5 running back potential. Honestly, I mean, it's just like if he's healthy, who's going to be like, let's not worry about Todd Gurley. So it's a situation where, again, it's specific to the team and the individual as far as it comes to running backs. You look at a team like Tennessee with Derrick Henry. We know that team runs through Derrick Henry. He's going to get, the money he deserves to get paid, right? This is a guy that deserves to get paid. A guy like Sonny Michel or James White, they're not going to get paid Christian McCaffrey type money because they're not the focal point of the team. It doesn't mean that they're not valuable. It just means that they're not. It's specific to the individual and the team, and I think that it also depends on, like I said, just the style of play. James White is not getting the ball and rushing the ball 20, 25 times, a game out the backfield. He might have 1 or 2 games like that a season. Maybe he'll catch the ball 15 times, but it just depends.
The running back market indeed is a volatile one, similar to how volatile our hot takes are on the usual weekly basis. And that means it's time for our hot takes for today, gentlemen. And you know what, Darren? I want to give it to you first, my man, because I need something spicy in my life because I haven't been able to get good jalapenos in a while. So lay it on.
So I'm actually going to go along with what I kind of was saying earlier about Alvin Kamara. And this is why. Alvin Kamara signed for a deal, $8 million per year, 3 years.
So you'd be making.
Now you got to think about this. He's already in contract dispute. There's things going on over here, and with everything going on, if he feels as though the Saints are still set up for the next year or two, he might sign, go ahead and stay, and those 2 years get his best possible chance at the Super Bowl with Drew Brees. And after that, head for greener pastures because he still has years. He still has years. He's not the full-fledged guy. He's not the guy taking the brunt of the hits when it comes to running the ball. He's more that third down, change of pace guy. But when need be, he can carry the load for a small amount of time.
So low-paying long-term deal for $3 million, and then as soon as there's got to be an option within that contract built in once it's coming in.
I'm thinking the last year can be voided out, but definitely $8 million per year. So we're looking at 3 years, $24 million with an opt-out the last year.
Guys, hey there, and I'm a little disappointed. This is tepid. tepid to say the least, man. Not fiery at all. It's not making me burn on the inside and cry for my mama. So Avery, I want to ask you now. Give me one that's better.
My hot take is that Alvin Kamara will not be a Saint this year. I believe that he gets traded to either New England or Jacksonville.
Whoa, hold on. You're saying that the Saints would actually go along with the threats? Because yes, I can see the situation. Like I said, the Saints are $80 million over the top, so they have no room whatsoever to pay this star running back. But to the Patriots or to the Jaguars, Darius, if you're watching, man, you better like put in something in the comments because this is crazy. Like, what would the value be?
I mean, you got to think Jacksonville's got the cap space, right? Obviously, and they just let go of Leonard Fournette. They need, a running back at this point that's going to be able to be the number one guy coming out the backfield, right? So I think Jacksonville makes a lot of sense. He's a young running back. Outside of last year, he's proven that he can stay healthy. It's a guy that because he's young and you are rebuilding, you can rebuild around a guy like him. Imagine a guy like Alvin Kamara with Trevor Lawrence, and they get some dynamic receivers in the draft or via trade or whatever the situation. It could be a pretty scary team. And as far as the Patriots, it's just a Bill Belichick type of thing. It's like, oh, you're unhappy there? Come play with us. And it's a situation where I'm in Cam Newton and Alvin Kamara in the backfield. I mean,
especially Cam Newton is one of the most underpaid quarterbacks in the league right now with that 1 year, $7 million contract he signed. The cap space is there, and I can see that. So you know what? I'm just gonna clench myself there. Oh, because that was spicy. Oh, one hell of a hot take. But you know what? I'm gonna lay mine out here, and it's gonna kind of build on the hot take that I had last week. For people that don't remember, I said that the Bengals were going to sweep the Ravens in the 2020 NFL season. Well, now I'm going to take it up a step further, and I say that the Bengals are going to meet the Ravens for a wild card situation, and I'm going to say that the Bengals will barely beat the Ravens in the 2020 playoffs in a wild card situation.
Yo, he is going. Yo, Juan is snapping right now. Like, first the Bengals are going to sweep the Ravens, and then they're going to get to the playoffs and beat the Ravens in the wild card. Oh my God, Juan is listen, Juan, you are something else. I got to get the fog off my screen, man.
I'm not a Ravens hater. If anything, I'm more of a Patriots hater, but I love me a good underdog story, and I can't imagine any other team in the NFL being more of an underdog than the Cincinnati Bengals. Rookie QB with the number 1 overall pick. Great weapons all around him. Just the offensive line is not that sturdy. Defense has so much left to be desired, but I want to see success come out of Cincinnati, and I believe, and I have to give the Ravens, the prop for the 14-2 record that they put up last year. But I just don't think it's sustainable, and it only takes one mistake for a hungry tiger to pounce.
Man, oh man.
So, I possibly can to you, Juan.
Bengals end the show.
Will not be winning twice. They will not beat us in the playoffs. And if we do beat them in the playoffs, we'll be beating them by 30. 30.
I'm not calling no safe word yet. Look, I stand by my takes and I'll see them through. For guys who watch this show, like we have a bet going on between me and Darren, where if I said that the Bengals sweep the Ravens in the regular season, that he has to buy a Joe Burrow jersey and wear it. But if the Ravens sweep the Bengals, I have to buy a Lamar Jackson jersey and wear it. And I'm a man of my word. Darren, I know for a fact you are a man of your word, and the day will come when one of us will have to buy that jersey, and the other one will just.
Don't worry, we'll be twins for that day.
Can I spice up? Because again, Lamar Jackson, right, has legend potential. So you buy a Lamar Jackson jersey, that's really not a bad thing, right? Same thing with Joe Burrow, the number one overall pick. You guys should actually have to wear a jersey of somebody who's a bum, like somebody who nobody knows is on the team. It's like, who's that guy? Why'd you buy that Ravens jersey? Why'd you buy that Bengals jersey?
I can buy an Earl Thomas jersey.
Oh!
The disrespect! And Jerome will be too ready for it. He'll be too ready for it. It's cool though. It's cool. Sean Elliott, baby.
Behind me. I will end this. So this has been the Air It Out podcast presented by Inside the Hashes. Thank you for watching. And remember, for more Inside the Hashes content, you can check us out on our YouTube. Just check it out. Just type in Inside the Hashes on the search bar. On our website, InsideTheHashes.com. You can also find us on social media. On Facebook, we are Inside the Hashes, the football group. On Twitter, we are at Inside Hashes. And on Instagram, we are at Inside the Hashes. You can also join our Twitch. You can also join not Twitch, our Discord. Inside the Hashes. Just look us up and join us for all kind of football talk and conversations that we'll be having there. And don't forget that this Sunday, Inside the Hashes will be having its third annual fantasy football draft with yours truly drafting fourth overall, Mr. Darren drafting third overall, and Avery drafting 11th overall. That'll be at 6 p.m. live stream here. So for Avery Collins, for Darren Braxton, for Jerome Jones, and in spirit, Mr. Darius Riddick. My name is Juan Pablo Gordon Camargo. We'll see you next time. Oh, my God.
Oh, man. Every time.